My first time moving out, I stayed in residence at my local university. And let me set the stage. For some reason, they forced all first years, no matter their age, into the same two buildings. I was 2 years older than most people. More on this later. There were two kinds of rooms, solo or roommate. And when I say roommate, I mean you are literally 3 meters away from them in a tiny square room. Hi there. Basically, if you rolled over twice, you'll suddenly be cuddling. Way more of a committed relationship than I was expecting. More on this later. Some hallways had both genders, others had only male, and others still only female. Some entire floors were just for women, which, fair enough. There's one washroom in each hallway with several stalls and showers, though it wasn't a rule we were advised not to use the bathtub. I used the bathtub, but only for showering, and I wore flip-flops while inside. Then there was the required meal plan. It was pretty condescending, like they were forcing us into it because they assumed we would use all our money on drink. Like, what? Bro, we are adults. If someone spends all their money on drink and flunks out, then that sounds like a them problem. Don't force us into this because of a few bad apples. They wouldn't let us cook either. It was either meal plan, go hungry, or buy takeout from elsewhere. So I bought takeout from elsewhere. My university years were fueled by Korean barbecue, Vietnamese subs, and pizza. Thank you, semi-foreign cuisine. Oh, and rice. I ate like 2 cups of rice a day. For breakfast. Soy sauce and rice can fuel your youth. Keep in mind this was all just as expensive as the meal plans, if not cheaper. It was also better quality in my opinion because the breakfasts and dinners they offered were just bad. Half-cooked bacon, meh hash browns, and the dinners were so lackluster I don't even remember them. They let us buy these portable elements that couldn't even boil a pot of water. The noodles went soggy before they would cook. I used it one time and realized it was just a scam because they didn't trust us not to burn the apartment down. Again, condescending. It was really annoying. This all wouldn't have been the worst, except that the food funds account was thousands of dollars a year. And did I mention it was required? There were special places where we could use the card to eat. The money was used like points, but I guess then again, all money is used like points, isn't it? Life is just a pay-to-win video game if you think about it. Most of the places where we were allowed to use the card were, again, pretty bad. There was one place that made a decent potato egg hash with turkey bacon on top. It was pretty good, but was occasionally randomly bad. Other than that location, the card was a waste of time. I was lucky enough to have my own money still from working as a lifeguard, but if not for that, my time there would have been immensely worse. Moving on, let's talk about my first roommate. Look at what I just said there. First roommate. I changed roommates because, well, let's get into it. Quick reminder, we lived in a small 3-meter squared room. The same room. Everything else in the building was shared with every other room. Let's rapid fire. He piled his garbage into large mountains. He smelled. Like drugs, each their own, but gross. When I was sleeping, he would come back to our room at 4 a.m. One time, he woke me up at 2 a.m. asking if his drunk friend could sleep in the middle of the room. I said yes because, well, what else could I have said? I was an awkward boy. When I woke up, he was still there. I snuck out to use the shower. When I came back, he was gone. He stayed up late, all the time, watching stuff on YouTube when I was trying to sleep. He partied, seemingly a lot. One time he stayed out all night, like, just didn't come back. I texted him to make sure he was okay because, well, all night was a scary thing for a teetotaler like myself. I did everything I could to make sure that I didn't bother this guy, but he didn't seem to care about bothering me at all. In conclusion, our existence was not cohesive. All the negatives I just said are fine if you aren't actively in other people's business about it, but not throwing out your garbage, smelling bad when I'm 3 meters away, disrupting my sleep. Come on, dude. On many occasions, I would call my dad to ask for advice about this guy because, well, come on, how was I supposed to deal with this? Is this guy the reason I was forced to have a meal plan instead of managing my own money? How was I supposed to work things out with him? Talking? Exercise communication skills? No, that never worked with any of my sisters. Why would it work now? I actually did try talking it out. You know, adulting. Except I've already worked as a lifeguard whose job it was to occasionally solve stupid problems like this. But listen, it's a different situation, okay? I never had a roommate by that point in my life, outside of sisters who'd been there, since I was born, so it was hard. And it's also different because, well, as a lifeguard, I'm paid to handle this stuff. I wasn't paid for this. I was paying for this bull crap. Come on. I don't quite remember how our discussion went, but it didn't work too well. Wasn't his fault entirely. I could have done better as well. Eventually, I got so frustrated with this guy that I devised a plan. There was someone else on our floor who I knew had paid for a double room, but was lucky enough to not have a roommate. I talked to him, told him the problems I was having with my current roommate, and asked if I could become his roommate instead. He responded, "Never!" and slammed the door in my face. Just kidding. He was actually one of the nicest people ever. I still talk to him to this day. Even though he was living the high life by himself, with no one in his privacy, he said I could become his roommate. He didn't party, didn't drink, didn't smell like grass. Instead, he played D&D, was a bit of a nerd, was pretty quiet, and, well, really nice. He was exceedingly considerate, so much so that I felt like I was the annoying roommate. I still talk to him once in a while, to this very day. Years after university, he occasionally asks if I'm looking for a roommate. At least I passed that test. Don't ask me about the philosophy final I got a 0 on. Back to my plan. I wrote down the differences between my current roommate and the guy I was wanting to move in with. This guy likes partying, that guy doesn't. This guy stays up late randomly, that guy doesn't. This guy drinks a lot, that guy doesn't. And so on and so forth. I scheduled a meeting with the dormitory supervisor. Before I could give the full list, the supervisor started giving me the talk about how we should be working together and these are important life skills that would be useful for the rest of our life. Yeah. Except I already had these skills. I'm just not being paid to handle it this time. He said that you normally have to have a very good reason to change roommates, which, I mean, fair enough, but I would have moved out under other circumstances anyways. I mentioned one phrase that changed everything. My roommate drinks. That must have broken my supervisor or something, because he immediately brought up my roommate's file. Let me give some background here. When I applied for residence, I had to check off certain boxes. Are you okay with co-ed? Do you want a single room? Do you drink? And so on. They pick your roommate based on what you have checked. Apparently, my roommate had either lied or changed his mind about drinking. I kind of think he lied, probably so his parents wouldn't get mad at him or something. But upon this discovery, the supervisor immediately gave me permission to transfer to my new roommate's room. I moved like the next day. It was great. I think both me and my old roommate were happier being apart from each other. I didn't have anyone ruining my sleep and making garbage mountains in my room. He didn't have anyone constantly hounding him to clean up or being annoyed at him for constantly returning at like 3 a.m. When I moved in with my new roommate, everything was fantastic. In fact, I started to feel like I was the annoying roommate. I felt so bad whenever I would inconvenience him. We ended up roommating for 2.5 years total. In later years, when we were actually given an oven, I would make a big pot of mom's spaghetti sauce and pancakes to share. We would usually order our pizzas individually because, well, we ate so much. Sometimes the pizza guy would show up twice because of how synced we were. It was a good time. We got along well. 10 out of 10, would recommend roommating with him. Maybe not so much the other guy, but I'm sure he says the same about me. So that was my experience in my first year in residence. No excitement was had. I avoided everything. See you next time.